Altered, which I think is fair enough. So joining me to go head-to-head, Lois Perry and also Matthew Stadlen. We've got to start with you, Lois, on this.
Oh, oh God. Yeah. I don't even know where to start. I mean, you know, obviously these councils, it's a way of... It's literally making money out of thin air. A lot of them have got little god complexes, so they get to exert all their power and control at a local level. But ultimately, this is a neo-Marxist utopia of no one ever going out or doing anything, just walking to their local shop, no freedom of choice. I've said this before, I've said it a million times, sitting at home, universal basic income, staring at a screen, you know, waiting to be told what to do, probably microchipped, I don't know. The whole thing is completely and utterly undemocratic and pretty nasty, actually.
I'm not quite sure why it's anti-democratic or undemocratic.
No one voted for it.
But if you don't like it, Lois, guess what you can do? Or
no, well, there's absolutely nothing you can do.
Why not?
Because all of the main parties agree with this nonsense.
OK, so in other words, the parties that represent us think that this is a good idea, and you're annoyed because you're not represented. So do you know what the great thing you can do in a democracy? Set up your own party. You set up your own campaign group, Car 26 or whatever it is.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. How passive-aggressive was that?
You could... Not passive-aggressive.
Well, it is, or whatever it is. You know exactly what it's called.
Is it Car 26?
Yes, it is,
so
as you well know.
I was right.
Yeah.
So you could... I'm not quite sure what the point of it is, but you can set your own party up, and then we can have the great opportunity to vote for you. Do you want me to tell you about my most recent polling? Because obviously I don't represent anyone, right? So the most recent YouGov polling that we did with Car 26 or whatever it is showed that 62% of those that were polled in a YouGov poll wanted a referendum on net zero. So, guess what? Do you know why they wanted a referendum? Because they don't want net zero policies, because they know that it makes them poorer, takes away their choice, and it's just a completely ridiculous idea, especially when China and all these other countries are doing polluting, in inverted commas, 100 times more than we are.
I'll let you know when you can jump in. Yes, Matthew.
Yeah. Look, give me just a minute at least just to rebut some of this stuff.
Well, but you can have your minute, but if you keep dropping in passive-aggressive jibes, then you will be interrupted.
Have a big passive-aggressive. I don't understand the point about Car 26. Listen,
well,
Reform...
62% do. Hang on,
Reform UK, Richard Tice's party, they offer something slightly different, right? They've got some big, bold policies. I disagree with perhaps all of them. Interviewed Richard. We get on well. I've interviewed him very robustly for the podcast. But there is a party, an upstart party, that you could vote for. He is implacably opposed, Richard Tice, to net zero. So it's not true to say that people who are anti-net zero in the way that you are aren't represented. I think the majority of the British population realise that we have to be serious about climate change, and that net zero is, broadly speaking, a very important goal. The question is, and this is just a caveat, and this is important, and this is why I think it probably is quite useful to have voices such as yours, Lois, sort of shouting from the rooftops. Listen, what is important is, because we've set this goal, and Chris Skidmore was the energy minister for the Tories, who's just stepped down, when they enshrined it in law, is because we said, OK, this is what we need to do, because we want to be in line with the international community and with science. Okay, how do we get there? Let me just quickly say, how do we get there? That's important, because it has to be done equitably.
But I've got to stop you. I'm asking about the councils, and we're talking about whether it's undemocratic.
Yes.
So,
my answer to that is, I'll give you a personal example, 20-mile-an-hour speed limits in London. I don't remember voting for that at the last mayoral election. Maybe I didn't read the prospectuses, the manifestos closely enough. I don't remember voting for it. When it first came in, as a born-and-bred Londoner who's used the streets as an adult, I thought, very, very annoying. Now I think it's a fantastic thing. That doesn't answer the point about democracy. What does answer the point about democracy is that we're about to have a mayoral election. And then if people don't like it, they can say, bye-bye, Sadiq Khan, we'll vote for someone else. But I tell you a secret, he's going to win again, and that's going to really annoy you guys.
Well, this will be interesting if he does. I think it will annoy a lot of people.
It will, but he will win.
People like me. But it will be very irritating, because obviously...
It's called democracy, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but nobody's saying that it's undemocratic. We're talking about the councils.
Well, they can be voted out next time round. Richard Tice can set up lots of local councils around the country.
What can you do when your council are bringing these things in the midst of their term, which is undemocratic? You can try and get rid of them, but it's in the middle of the term. They're putting
there is an important and interesting wider question that affects central government as well. How much can a government or a local council deviate from their manifestos? And if they have been, if they are significantly deviating, then I guess there is a question of whether it's anti-democratic. But I repeat, exercise your vote, get out and vote. If you don't like what your council's doing, vote them out next time round.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's interesting, but the point still remains that these councils are doing things that the community have not asked them to do, and they're not aware of them doing it, and they're imposing them. And in where I live, they've got this thing where they've decided now that the bin in the middle, so you've got the green, the black, and then there's a brown one. The brown one, or is it the green one? It's the green one now. Because a lot of people don't fill it, they're now going to put a sort of surcharge. So you can then decide whether you want them to pick up the green bin or not, even though I pay my council tax. It's stuff like that these councils are doing, and I think it's actually very undemocratic. But what do you think at home? gbviews@gbnews.com or tweet us at gbnews. We'll get some of those emails. Now, Lois, I know with this net zero stuff, what do you think? Because obviously Skidmore's gone, which is a rather unfortunate name.
Well, it really
but he had to go. There's no point in it. I don't know why
Well, there's a top job that's coming up on the CCC, which is the Climate Change Committee, and Lord Gummer, who has been wrong on pretty much everything he's done during his political career. Obviously, very famously making his little girlie a hamburger during the BSE crisis in the 90s. I even remember that. I remember watching it and thinking, oh, that's a bit weird. Anyway, they've all got their snouts in the trough in terms of renewable companies and stuff. That's a fact. That's not me being in any way liable. Skidmore's on 80 grand a year from this renewable company consultancy thing, and he's going to go over, I believe, to Lord Gummer's job, because Lord Gummer is stepping down. So yeah, it's all very corrupt, and it's all totally.
Hold on. Sorry, no, it might not be corrupt if he's going to the job legitimately and leaving his post. That's perfect.
If you're being paid,
let me finish.
Sorry,
he's allowed to do that. They are allowed second jobs.
Yeah.
He's doing something that a lot of MPs do. We've got MPs who work here and are doing a second job. I don't agree in second jobs with MPs, by the way. But he's not. That's not corruption. Him leaving his post, which he's allowed to do, and then taking a different job.
Yeah, look, the way to justify or to explain what Skidmore has done, I don't think we should focus on him, because it's much more about the issues which we passionately disagree about.
Well, he was net zero, wasn't he?
He was net zero, but if he was doing it to really draw attention to this bill that's probably going to pass anyway next week, that's one thing. If he just wanted to get out earlier...
How to invest with zero commission. Start by finding your favourite company.
Pounds is going to cost the council, the local community to run this election, when the seat's going to be abolished anyway. So the MP who wins will only be in for a few months. So reformer boycotting. But park that aside. The point about Skidmore is he thinks that Rishi Sunak has put the skids under the net zero policy, and this is very serious, because there are two parts to this. One, do we need to get to net zero? Yes, obviously we do. That's a scientific and international consensus.
Some people disagree.
Lois disagrees, and she's in the studio. The second point is, how do we get there? And this is important. This is what I was trying to get to earlier. We've agreed and we've legislated to get there by 2050, but we need to do the hard thinking about how we actually get there, to make sure the policies are solid and to make sure that poorer people, if we can, are not disproportionately affected.
I'm going to wrap this up, because a lot of people don't agree with it, and people weren't consulted thoroughly as to what it would entail, and a lot of the stuff they're making up right now is costing us all a fortune, including this stuff that these councils are initiating without any sort of democratic